I have a challenge. Willy has to leave because he's got an interview with Metro. So I'm going to give him 10 minutes. And what he does is to pick up the issue of language, but also to take it to the digital space. And I will end up the panelist discussion with Dr. Magona, and you'll realize why I want her to finish and wrap everything. It is not a gender issue, but this one, he needs to leave. So I'm going to give him that short period that he has before he jets out. That.
That is it. Holona bohle. Ke batla ho qala ka leleme la heso. Tabena e bohlokwa ena hore re tle mpe re qala jwalo bane re bua mona ka maleme a rona a setso empa re bua ka sekgowa. Jwale he re ke ske ka ba snacks hobane ho bua nnete batho ba batsho re tumme ka ho ba hospitable. Jwale ka se ke dumedisitse e re ke fetolehe hore le ba bang ba tle ba nkutlwe. My topic for today is the African quagmire. And by the way, Bampita Brawili, because now I couldn't end the title. But so I thought, no, let me create my own title, Brawili, which I don't have to study for. I just have to earn it in the streets. Now, here's the quagmire that Africans have. The quagmire is that we are made to believe that there is an either or in our lives when it comes to culture and worldliness. That we can't observe our culture and be worldly. And it finds itself in the languages that we use. So we're told worldliness is linked directly or indirectly to progressiveness, directly or indirectly to riches, directly or indirectly to being able to connect with the outside world. But you cannot do it if you observe your culture. So start by tossing out your culture first, and then you can be worldly. But wait, you have to speak English. That then qualifies you to become worldly. That's our African quagmire. Now, there's something I don't get, and kilebelo re ki buile kamera bakhala ba ile re bane ba e beya taba mo ile re kaofela re utlwisisa hore from what I can tell they have a worldly outlook, and yet they are saying culture has got to be observed because it is what and who we are, and we cannot divorce ourselves from what and who we are. But we try so hard. Only something else I don't get. Ngugi says, you're okay, observe your culture. Wole Soyinka says, you're okay, observe your culture. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, who is by all standards the celebrity of now, says UK, observe your culture. Miriam Makeba, who was very worldly in every way, was singing in her language. Ereki tetele ka Brahu, ailing athola an honorary doctorate to hona mona vet. By the way, nalin tate sepe, rene re le mmoho mona. Empa e le hore nna ke hola slower. Here's what Hugh says. Hugh says, we are, in a decade or two, we're going to be the only nation in human history who will have abandoned our languages, chasing languages of the colonial rule. The only nation as Africans. Now, what's common about all these people? I've quoted 5 people. What's common about them? For me, they're worldly. They've been very successful. Those who passed on, those who are still here, they're very successful to this day, including Yana Chimamanda, who said very recently that she only speaks to her child in Igbo, not English, Igbo. So the quagmire is, Jano Rona Africa rinki le ka ntwe ya or tshwantse re arwane le meetlo ya rona hore tle re kgone ba le tswelo pele. Where did we get the story that we have to speak English and divorce our own cultures so that we can be progressive, so that we can be successful? I don't get it. And I remember le bona batho ba o tshore le ba khalabe mona re tsere ha ba tsofetse ba tseba. They don't understand the ways of today. You have to speak this language so that you can connect. In November, and that is it, we 10 minutes. I'll try and be quick, but I'll be the African quick. Like, now. 5 minutes. What brought me here started in November. Early November, Twitter announced Horeba Ogedite their character limit from 140 to 280. And by the way, Nalin Tatwana Bitimani, we're doing the same thing. And Tatwana Shibilian phone was at it. It's a very chocolate screen. So in November, Twitter says we've now increased our character limit to 280 characters. And the first thing I did was to go and write a blog. And the title of my blog was "The change by Twitter's character limit to 280 is good for African languages." Where was I going with that? It's because our languages are naturally rich. I cannot read the tautologies, the rich. Rapita pita, girl. Ntomulem rapita pita. Shosho. Shap shap. So I was excited. I then put together my blog, and I was horrified because as I was preparing for my blog, I found out 3 things. The first one is, as per UNESCO study which was published in 2003, by the turn of the century, half of the world's languages are going to die. But the problem is, the bulk of that half come from Africa. We have more than 2,100 languages on this continent, and everybody gives you a different number. It is anything from 2,100 to 3,500, pick your number. But the bulk of that half is going to come from this continent. Here's one simple example. Those of you who have any interest in languages will know that there is a language, which is a Khoi language. It's called Nu. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Thank you. Kimusot. Anyway, as we told, only 3 people are speaking that language now, 3. And all of them are in their 80s, and their siblings. So not long from now, Mu is going to die. And it's one of the many languages. So the question is it okay? It's a scary thought for me personally. The second finding that we came across, there's a study that came out by a company called Portland's Comms. They did annual studies for 2014 and 2015. Their studies were titled How Africa Tweets. But in 2015 specifically, they found that Africans don't tweet in their languages. How many of you tweet in this hall? And how many of you who tweet in your languages? Consistently. Not once in a while, when I'm feeling this way or that way. So it was found that we don't tweet in our languages. Here's a third finding. The third finding is that the millennials, they talk less and text more. So let's kind of bring these 3 points together quickly. 1, our languages are going to die because we don't speak them. 2, we don't tweet in our languages. And 3, the younger ones are texting more and talking less. So they're texting more in English. So we have a very critical situation as Africans. So we launched this campaign with fanfare, and we were excited and thought Africans are going to take up to this like bonfire. We've been somewhat discouraged because Africans are saying, what's your problem? We are okay with English. We are connecting with the world. This is what social media is about. What's your problem? Africans. So we're sitting in a situation where we're saying to Africans, we want you to tweet in your languages, in this case tomorrow, which is the 25th. This campaign is called African Languages Day. Obviously, with the 25th of May being Africa Day, we felt that we want to tap into all things African and bring in the angle to say, how about we tweet in our mother tongues the whole day, for 1 day a year, 1 day. And Africans are resisting. So let's see if you in here are going to support us. Just so that we can have some numbers, please. Because if this campaign fails, the world are going to laugh at us. Or board. Look at them. So, as things stand, I'm running around begging for media interviews so that I can reach out to as many Africans as possible, and hopefully they'll hear me out. There's one thing we want to achieve, one thing. And by the way, there's 300 million Africans on social media. 300. Imagine 300 million Africans all posting in their languages for 1 day only. 1 day. And all that we're asking for from the social networks who don't care about our languages because we don't care about them ourselves, we're saying to them, African languages matter. So, as opposed to talking to you as social networks, we want to show you. Now, those of you who are on Twitter will know, a topic is trend on Twitter. It takes volumes. So that's really what we want to achieve. Because if we can get Africans tweeting in their languages, we will get the volumes. What's nice though is that of the 300 million, a good 60-70% of them, if not more, they speak only 10 languages. 10. So if we can get those people, 70% of 300, please do the numbers, to speak their languages, we're hoping we can get social networks to index top 10 African languages. What do I mean? What we mean by that is, At the moment, up until the beginning of May, none of the top 10 African languages could be translatable on Twitter. Now, those of you who are curious like I am, how want a language, and I almost said a funny language. How want a language is in English. When I tab ring, translate this. You click on it. Even when you know this is Zulu say. Madam Song Zulu say deep KZN, I'm going to check or a handland ring. When you click on it, what comes up is that language is identified as Indonesian. You can test it now. Go to Ukozi FM Twitter handle and try and translate Sizulu Sawon. You will see it says Indonesian. So what we're trying to do is to get Twitter to properly index minimum of top 10 of our languages. And the only way they can do it is us speaking the languages on Twitter. That's really what we're trying to do. It's not a difficult exercise, is it? So hopefully thereafter, those of you who are on social networks, how many Africans tweeted in their languages? What were the top 10 languages that they tweeted in? And what did the likes of Twitter and Facebook and Instagram do about that? That's really what we are about. Kilewi.